How long does it take to learn how to wingfoil? We're going to answer that and many more questions in this quick video. So the real reason you clicked on the video is succinctly for somebody to answer the question, how long does it take to learn to wingfoil? For us here, I will tell you 5 to 8 hours is probably the average. We like 5 hours of practice with the board, the foil, and a wing, and 1 to 2 hours with the foil drive so that you get some practice with that and feeling the lift to where that's not scary. At that point, you're confident enough to start going out on your own and learning to taxi back and forth. Your flights will get longer and longer. So if that's all you needed out of this video, 5 to 8 hours. But if you want to find out a little bit more about the learning process or maybe some of the nuance behind my answer, please keep watching. Hey, Jonathan from Epic Board Sports in Cocoa Beach here today to talk to you about learning how to wingfoil. A really common question we get is, how long does it take? Is it even worth the time and money? Am I going to be able to do it? Am I going to have fun? Believe it or not, that's a common question. And we're going to tackle that question and many more today in a quick video. Diving in, let's just talk about some things that help make learning faster and easier, and then maybe some things that make it take a little bit longer. The first of which is conditions. It's tough to learn a wind sport with no wind, right? So I'd encourage you, if you really want to learn and the wind is iffy for a portion of your year, maybe you want to take a vacation, go to some place that has reliable wind and some great instructors. I think you'll be much more efficient in the learning process that way. Assuming you have some conditions, even reasonable wind a couple of days a week, that's totally possible to learn at your beach with or without an instructor. And let's talk about what we're looking for there. First, you really need to understand the wind. Especially if there's nobody else at your beach that you can just follow. You need to consider what may or may not be in the water. Is there any hazards, the depth for the foil, those kind of things. Ideally, you're looking for side onshore conditions. So you want the wind to be blowing onshore, taking you back home, not taking you out to sea, if you haven't already, or across the lake or whatever that is, away from your entry point. So we're looking for onshore conditions, but dead onshore makes it hard to get away from shore. So the best wind condition to learn is going to be side onshore, wind that is coming into the shore at one angle. That'll be easy to get to and from shore, which is why we look for those conditions. Well, your fitness level can definitely affect your ability and speed of learning. It's especially at the start, wingfoiling is a lot of work. It's not always like that. It's just a lot of work at the start. You're falling off of the board. You don't know up from down, left from right. So those early lessons or those early attempts are going to be much more taxing on your body, especially if the weather's cold, water's cold, those kind of things. It's always worse when it's gloomy outside. So those things can definitely cause you to take longer to learn. Your gear, right? I see a lot of people that cobble together gear that is not their size. It was a good deal, but they're out there on totally mismatched random stuff, not knowing why it's not working for them. That can cause you to have to take longer to learn. Certainly the presence or your ability to take lessons and whether that instructor is good, communicates well, is observant, those kind of things. When I learned, I didn't have lessons, and it was a pretty long, arduous process to learn because you can't see yourself and you just kind of make the same mistakes again and again. A good instructor is going to be able to systematically take you through in organized fashion what you need to do to progress and be able to tell you, okay, you did this, now try this, right? And if you're coachable, you're going to move through those steps really fast. That's actually an interesting other point, the coachable. I've done lessons even recently, with students that say, well, I think I need to, right? Or I think it would work better if we. If you really like the instructor and the instructor has a demonstrated history of success, they want you, or I hope they want you to speed through the learning process as fast and organized and safe as possible. So realistically, you just need to trust the process, right? And just march lockstep and trust that each one of these skills that you learn is going to build. And before you know it, it's all going to make sense. A lot of people want to just go out and try one of those things, right? I just want to get on it and see if I can do it, right? For something like wingfoiling that has a little bit, more going on than, a random sport, I just don't think that's a great way to learn. It's just potentially dangerous, and it's going to be really frustrating. Next, let's talk about how gear may impact the learning process. I already alluded to the fact that I've seen a lot of people learn on some gear that was cobbled together, wrong sizes, tiny foils, those kind of things. I really am a big believer, and I've been saying it the whole time that we've been teaching, although a lot of stores didn't. I like big stuff with plenty of lift. When people are learning, I like them to be overpowered to a certain degree. It's just, to me, to borrow on a baseball analogy, if you can step up to the plate and take a swing, at least you got to feel it. If nothing's happening because you have a tiny, tiny wing or a tiny foil that has to go 15 miles an hour to foil, the likelihood of connecting, of hitting a pitch, is just highly unlikely. So we like to send students out either when they're first learning on really big boards, and I'll show you some of what I consider to be big, and really big wings and big foils, and not high aspect and not even mid aspect. We just really like the low aspect foils to learn. They're stable and a lot of lift. And let's talk about that too. So a lot of people, when they want to learn or their first set, they have this wall in their mind of gear that they can't buy because they're going to grow out of it. Well, that's a good thing. You learned safely, you had fun, and there you are enjoying the sport, ready to size down. The converse of that might be you got hurt and now you're 6 months out from trying again. You got frustrated and never want to learn anyhow. Or it took way longer in the process, and yeah, you get to go to the beach and talk about how hard it was when you learned, but right next to you is a guy that said, I learned it in 5 to 10 hours, right? So gear considerations in learning are huge, and we would really highly recommend working with a local shop to get sized on gear and give yourself some fudge factor in learning and sizing, right? If you're considering a lesson, and I used to be a store that even tried to talk people out of taking lessons, and now I've certainly changed my tune. I just think it's way more efficient, it's way safer, and I think everybody comes away learning more faster with a good instructor, qualified with a good instructor, right? Some instructors that teach out of their car, they might use their gear to teach on. Chances are, if they already know how to foil and they're trying to teach you on the gear that they own, that's likely not beginner gear. So kind of look for those stores and shops that have either a track record or a lot of gear set up to bring people into the sport. Learner gear, big boards, big foils, that kind of thing. How long have they been around? All of that. What my ultimate goal in lessons is each day to build skills a little at a time. And after 4 to 5 one-hour lessons, we're usually able to have students taxiing, just going back and forth. Sometimes taking little mini hops, right? Those flights are going to get longer and longer, but it's pretty easy to get somebody taxiing in that amount of time with no experience. If you have previous foil experience, if it's maybe on a boat, maybe you have a foil drive, that can really help. Learning the foil is a separate component to the learning to wing and learning the wind. And that's another thing that I think I'm going to encourage you, if you don't have a store out there that and you don't have an instructor, finding a store that teaches with the foil drive system. If you don't know what it is, Google it. It is a game changer in learning. Even if your friend has a boat or a jet ski, the communication between you and the driver, the wastes of time circling, all of that is inefficiency. A foil drive gives you the power to push when you want to push, to stop when you want to stop. You know you're going to throttle up, you know when you're going to throttle down. We, as a store, only teach foiling now with the foil drive system, and it's really changing the amount of time people take to learn to foil. Some traits that might make it easier or harder to learn is actually your personality. There are some people, I used to have a basketball coach that say are coachable. There's some people that come ready to learn, and then there's some people that come ready to reinvent the process. And I think that's pretty clear about what that is. So definitely come to the water. If you like the instructor and you like the shop, be ready to learn, right? You're not the first student. So you just need to kind of trust the process. And even though some of these skills might seem not fun or arduous or whatever, each one is going to be needed for that next step. And so I encourage you to go through them one at a time and master them. And in the end, it will be a much faster process. So don't compare yourself to others. Set reasonable goals each day, and don't get frustrated, right? Even if one skill is harder, it might take you longer, but maybe the next skill you'll learn faster, right? So all of that, and then remember to celebrate the wins. Lastly, one of my final tips is, regardless of whether you took a lesson or whether you're going to do the School of Hard Knocks, quit while you're ahead. So there's a point in the day when you're learning that you're repeating the same mistakes just because you're fatigued. At that point, you're only risking getting hurt. And I don't really ever see anybody have great takes after that point. It's better to call it a day. So if you're in the area in Cocoa Beach, Florida, and you're either looking for rental gear while you're blowing through town before a cruise or something like that, or if you'd like to travel for lessons here, we'd love to have you. As always, you can give us a shout on the telephone or online. We're www.epic-boardsports.com. You can also send us an email, all of those kind of things. We're happy to talk to you more about it. Lastly, again, if you don't mind, like and subscribe.